Good night, everyone. Doing tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Army Jail Spirit is Divine. I'm here to give you a news and a little word on tonight. First we're gonna start with someone was in prison and he died today. At least we got the news today. Ellis, and he was in Russia. Political who opposed Putin to the end has died, and he died in prison. So he the last time he was seen was 2012. Now behind the balls, you know, is was in a police van after he was detained during protests. A day after Putin uh, Alexei Ellis, most political opponent position figure out has died in a remote Russia prison at age 47. So he came to them while he was in prison. Authority, said that that Ellis felt unwell. They said he felt sick. He felt sick. So after a walk in prison a yard, and soon he lost his consciousness. An attempt by emergency. He was failed to positive results. So he received punishment for his years. Of Russia president Putin. So he died in prison under Russia. And he said before his time, he did say he didn't feel well. So we sorry to hear that. And he been in there since the last time they saw him was 2012. Um, I got a word on Peter. Peter, miracle escape from prison. So now the angels gonna come and get him out of prison. Because the member from the church, gonna be praying. So it gonna come from Acts chapter 12, 1 through 19. So it was about, this time that King Harold, arrested some who belongs to the church, intended on prosecuting them. Now see, he didn't want nobody, they hanging around, preaching and talking, about God and a lot of rules. He don't want to hear all that. Of anybody, ever want to arrest some people who belongs to the church. And Peter gonna happen to be out there. He gonna say we gonna get him too. So Herod who hated John, and now has commanded to himself, to the Jewish leader, by protecting their religion. So ended himself followed by arresting James and the brother of John. So now he had James, the brother of John, to put to death with his sword. Now he only grabbed James because he already had did what he did to John, and just because that's his brother. So we see that he aged eagle, to do James in, because he the brother of John. So when he saw that he met the approval among the Jews, now he proceeded aside, Peter also. Now this happened during the festival of unleavened. So he wanted to this to happen. He wanted this to happen, during the festival. Unleavened bread have approval to size Peter and James. So after arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by the full SWAT, or the full soldiers. Herod intended to bring him out from public trial after the Passover. So now they arrested Peter. all four soldiers, each who had the care of the prison. Now each company, is talking about turning one of the four, watches of the night. So Peter was now in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. So he the member of the church was outside praying. You know, Remember, you want somebody to pray for you, tell the members of the church, because they will get down and pray for you. So that the first thing was, the first thing you do is pray. I put that out yesterday. In the situation, come up, pray. Now, while Peter was in prison, the church member had started praying. Start praying like they ain't prayed before. And they're gonna be praying. They're gonna be praying so hard. When Peter is out, they ain't gonna know that's Peter knocking at the door. They're gonna be still praying. So Herod had Peter arrested during the Passover celebration. Now this was, it was an extraordinary move, because more Jews was in the city than usual. So Herod could impress a good number of people. Now Herod planned to execute Peter just like James. But the believers was praying for Peter. Safety, praying of the church. So affected outcome of these events. Now we don't understand, how prayers work. But the Lord understand how prayers work. The Lord responded to the believer. Prayer and sent in angels, to release the Peter from prison. Now, when you pray to God, we don't know how we don't know how God gonna answer. We don't know how God gonna answer, but He gonna send His angels. The night before Herod was to bring him in. Child Peter was sleeping. Now, Peter don't have no worry in hell because he up in there sleeping like Jesus was sleeping on a boat when all that was going on. Some people can sleep when it's in chaos. It's in chaos. Now he in jail. Now he sleep. So Peter was sleeping. Two soldiers bind with him 2 chains, and stood guard at the entrance. Now suddenly angels of the Lord appeared at like stone in a cell. Now struck Peter on the side and woke him up. Quick, get up. And he said the chain. Now God had sent an angel. Sent an angel to rescue Peter. Because see what they were gonna do on the next day, the next morning. They were gonna try to prosecute him public. Angels of God messenger, they are divided, creature being with supernatural power. So in this sometime, take on a human appearance. Sometimes the angels being in human appearance, and sometimes they won't. Because sometimes they can have them looking like regular people. So they're in human appearance in order to talk to people. Now the angels should not be worshiping because they are not divine. So we see prayers work. Prayers work for Peter. Peter prayed and people, with the church. Now prayers to God, now we see that God came, to his rescue in him by sending an angel. So now then the angels had said to him, put on your clothes. Because see, he's sleeping good. The angel had to wake him up. He had to wake him up because he is sleeping. So the angel had said, put your clothes on. Get up. And Peter did so. Wrap your coat around your around you and follow me. The angels had told him to get up, put your clothes out, and you just follow me. Now see, he have sleep. He don't seem like this. He don't know this real. You know how when you sleep and you wake up, you're just drowsy. He think he's still sleeping. So Peter followed. He followed. Him out of the prison, but he had no idea. That what was on the angels was doing was really happening. He didn't know it was really happening. He thought, he was seeing a vision, because us divine, we can always, see things that people can't see. Seeing vision, and you can see anything, So, and he did obey. He followed. Peter had been sleeping in prison. His execution is scheduled for the next day. James, was already had been beheaded. So when an angel had awakened, him in his chain fall off, Peter is likely doesn't yes, a fact that things think is a vision, or a dream. Now this time the angel had to tell him exactly what to do. Dress for the fight. I put that on yesterday with the armor, dress with the fight. Get dressed for action, And so when he saw the angel, he telling him to get up. Now the whole time he thought it was a vision. He didn't realize it was actually happening. And so they passed the first, second guard. And it came to the iron gate leading the city. They opened the first gate. The city gate. And then they had went through it. And when they had walked out, the street suddenly the angels had left. And suddenly, suddenly Peter had sleep and prison had executed the schedule for the next day. So when Jerusalem was surrounded by 3 walls, so they passed it through the gates, and their gates was secure. And so, I'm sorry. And so when the angel had woke him up, the chains start falling off. The chains start falling off. Peter was like doesn't yes in the fact that he think it is a vision, but it actually was happening. The chains just start falling off. When they start walking, the gates just start opening up, And so while Peter was sleeping, the soldier bound with 2 chains, stood guard at the entrance on day. Sudden, angels of the law appear, a light star in a cell. Now he struck Peter on the side and woke him up. And now there were 16 soldiers, guarded Peter. And Peter was guarded by soldiers, But when God come through, look at how many chains they have on you. Them chains start falling off. The gates start opening up. It don't matter how gates open. When God come through there, all the chains gonna come off. All the gates and all gonna opening up. So he sent an angel and the chains fell off. The gate opened by itself. And when the angels of the God, outside of the gate, then the angels, job was done. That was her job. Job. Just to get them outside of the gate. So then Peter had came to himself and said, now send his angels and rescue me, from Herod, and from everything the Jewish people was hoping, would happen. They prayed for this day to happen, for Peter is escape. till they see that God came through. God had came through. He sent his angels. And when this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary. Now see, all they know that he's still in jail. And they're at the house praying. Now he about to be knocking on the door while they're praying. They're praying for him and don't even know he at the door. So he went to the house of Mary and the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and was praying. And so when Peter was free, he went straight by John's mother house. And when he had arrived, they all was praying. They've been praying for a long time. So when the angels had just rescued Peter, the prison moment, before Herod had planned on having him escorted to the execution instead of Peter go ahead, but wanted the church to know he's okay. So he go to the home of Mary, the mother of John. So we see that the power of praying, that reach up to heaven, God has sent the angels to rescue Peter. Peter knocked at the door. Now he knocking at the door. All they know that he is in jail. That's the power of prayer. They're praying for Peter. Their prayers work because he out. Praying, knocking on the door. At the other entrance, and a servant, named Rhonda. Rhonda came to the door. And she came to the door, but she ain't opened the door. And when she recognized Peter's verse, she was so overwhelmed, overjoyed, that she ran back without opening the door, and she declared, Peter is at the door. They're running. You like, you open the door? No, I ain't opening. He supposed to be in jail. But she recognized his verse. And they're like, why she ain't open the door? And so the servant Rhonda, now they knew Peter was in prison. So when he knocking at the door, she full of joy. So but still she still did not open the door. Peter is at the door. He trying to get in. So you out of your mind. You told her when she kept on insisting that it was so, they say it must be the angel. They won't believe it was Peter. They said maybe it's a vision. Maybe it's a vision of angel or something. Because Peter is in jail. So we didn't want it to believe that Peter was at the door. Thought it was an angel. So now they still did not open the door. All they know that Peter was in jail. But Peter kept on knocking. Peter just kept on knocking. And when you open the door and you saw, they was astonished. They were surprised to see him because they thought he was going to be in there for a long time. Once Peter free had went many houses and led his friends, know that he's safe. He wanted them to know that he's safe because he know they was praying for him. So many servants around her, was so excited, to see Peter, and she left from outside. She was so excited she left from outside, so she didn't want to open the door, and rush out to tell, the praying, work, and she assumed that Rhonda was mistaken, and they thought it must be Peter, guardian angel. So Peter mentioned with her hand, for them to be quiet, describe how the Lord had brought you out. So they want him to describe how God brought you out. That just like one of us being in a storm. How you got out. God brought me out. How you made it? God. So how, they're going to ask all these questions when you're in your storm. How God did it? How God did it. He told me to go this, that, and that way. See, when God came through, the change come up. God came through, the gates start opening up. So tell James and the other brothers and sisters about this. He said, then he left for another place. So he just making this around to let everybody know I'm okay. So James here is Jesus' half brother. Because Mary had more children once Jesus left home. He had led the church in Jerusalem. James rejected the idea. Now his brother was the Messiah before he was there. Now he believed after he saw Jesus raises from the dead. James led a church. That's why it was all with him, praying. So Peter said, let James know that he was okay. So in the morning, they were supposed to prosecute him public, but then they go to the jailhouse, Paul gone, Peter gone, so in the morning, there was a small, commotion among the soldiers as to what had become Peter, so after Peter had escaped, cross-examined the guard and the roughness order their execution in that day. If a guard permit a prisoner, to escape, Romans law required that he receive the same punishment that the prison, would have received. Now, when they have soldiers at that gate, supposed to be monitored, them prisoners, and when they escape, the soldiers gonna get the same benefits. They gonna get the same suffer that the person had got. So now the next morning, Peter was supposed to be executed, but when Peter was gone, he started cross-examining everyone. So after Herod had thoroughly searched and made for him did not find him, he cross-examination. And God ordered that they be executed. So they understand the power of prayer. There's power in prayer. You might not receive it right then and there. You may not receive it next week, but there's power in prayer. And once God make a move on it, so he wanted to execute Peter for no reason, because he was teaching people in the church. So all the people in the church came together in prison, and Peter, and said prayers. We will pray like Paul did, like the member of the church did. Prayers work. Prayers is very powerful. And so Peter was in jail for no reason, because he was with the church. They already were going to arrest, the member of the church, and so then when they saw Peter, they would just want to arrest him because he was with them, and then they started praying. Their prayers, had got to God, and so he sent the angels, and that go to show you, when you have peace, he able to sleep in anything. Jesus had peace with God. He was sleeping all on a boat, boat wave, water waving everywhere, the strong wind going on, and it just had a storm going on, and Jesus was sleeping, and that just like with Peter, you in prison. You got other playmates in prison, but you sleep. They go to show you can sleep. That's why they say you can get peace anywhere, even in the mix of your storm. You can receive peace. And so the lady was praying and praying and praying till that prayer had worked. That prayer had worked, and God had sent her angels. Sent her angels. They had to wake him up. And when he got up, she said, put some clothes on, be ready for war. And he put clothes on. Soon as he put clothes on, the chain started coming off his leg. And then a gate started opening up. So that's all I have for you today. And we did talk about this prisoner. The last time they saw him was 2012. And he been in prison. And he was in Russia under Putin care. You know. And they said he died in the jail. So they say he was in prison. Authorized say he felt sick. He ain't felt too good. And after he walked in the prison, now he was walking in the prison, he soon lost conscience. Attempt by emergency, to fail to give him results. So he died in prison. I don't know what the debt was, so they probably will come back with it later on, but I'm sorry to hear that. And he been in there since 2012. It may be before that, because they said it was the last time they saw him. That don't mean, last time he was in there. So I'm sorry. And give my condolences for the family. And I saw his wife today earlier on. Give my condolences for the family. Whew. So that's all I have for you today. And y'all have a blessed day. Have a nice one.